utterly invisible, of course. But in the eyes of my grandmother, Margaret Wilson, the family matriarch with her perfectly coiffed silver hair and piercing blue eyes, I might as well have been. I'm standing on her porch now, the same porch where I've stood hundreds of times before, clutching a homemade birthday card and trying to ignore the familiar knot in my stomach. It's her 82nd birthday, and the entire family is gathered inside her immaculate colonial home in suburban Connecticut. I can hear the laughter through the windows, my cousins Aiden and Sophia, my aunts and uncles, even my father's awkward chuckle. I take a deep breath and ring the doorbell, though I know I could walk right in. Somehow it never feels right to enter without an explicit invitation. Not when it comes to Grandma Margaret's house. My cousin Sophia answers, her face lighting up when she sees me. Emma, finally. Everyone's been asking where you were. She pulls me into a warm hug, the scent of her expensive perfume enveloping me. That's the thing about my family, everyone else loves me. Everyone except the one person whose approval I've craved my entire life. I follow Sophia into the living room where the family's gathered around Grandma Margaret, who sits regally in her favorite armchair. My cousins are perched at her feet like devoted subjects, while my aunts and uncles hover nearby, eager to please. My father stands slightly apart, as he always does, nursing a glass of whiskey and checking his watch. Look who's here. Sophia announces. Every head turns toward me except one. Grandma Margaret continues examining the gold bracelet my cousin Aiden has just given her. This is exquisite, Aiden, she says, her voice warm with affection. You always know exactly what I like. I stand awkwardly in the doorway, the handmade card suddenly feeling childish and inadequate in my hands. I'm 29 years old, a successful graphic designer with my own small studio in New Haven. Yet in this house, I always revert to feeling like an unwanted child. Happy birthday, Grandma, I say, stepping forward. She glances up, her eyes passing over me as if I'm made of smoke. Oh, Emma, you made it. No warmth, no smile. Just acknowledgement of my physical presence. I extend the card. I made this for you. She takes it without looking at it, placing it on the side table with a distracted, "Thank you, dear," before turning back to Aiden. Now tell me more about that promotion you mentioned. And just like that, I'm dismissed. Again, my mother would have known how to handle this situation. She was the buffer between Grandma Margaret and me, always finding ways to include me, to make me feel valued. But Mom died of breast cancer when I was 15, and since then, the cold distance between my grandmother and me has only grown wider. I slip away to the kitchen, offering to help with dinner preparations, my usual refuge at family gatherings. Aunt Diane, my father's sister, gives me a sympathetic smile as I tie on an apron. She's just having one of her days, honey, she says, though we both know every day is one of her days when it comes to me. It's fine, I lie, focusing intently on chopping vegetables. I'm used to it. The truth is, you never really get used to helping around her house, learning to cook her favorite recipes, even choosing a college near her home so I could visit regularly. Nothing worked. Dinner is a familiar performance. Grandma Margaret asks detailed questions about everyone's lives, Aiden's job at a prestigious law firm, Sophia's wedding plans, my younger cousin's school activities. When the conversation briefly turns to me and my recent success landing a major client for my design studio, she suddenly needs more water, another napkin, or has a question for someone else at the table after dinner. As everyone moves to the living room for cake, my father pulls me aside in the hallway. You okay, kiddo? He asks, his eyes clouded with the guilt he always carries at these gatherings. My father, Robert Rodriguez, is the family outlier, the only one who married outside the predominantly WASP family circle, choosing my Mexican-American mother and giving me a surname that stands out among the Wilsons and Clarks of the family tree. He's also the quietest of Grandma Margaret's 3 children, the one who visits the least, the one who seems perpetually uncomfortable in her presence. I'm fine, Dad, I say, the familiar script between coldness. What my father doesn't know is that I've stopped wondering why Grandma Margaret doesn't love me. 3 years ago, I found the answer, a truth so painful it changed everything I thought I knew about our family. It was an accident, really. I was helping Aunt Diane clean out her attic when we found a box of old letters. Letters between my grandfather, James, who died before I was born, and his brother, spanning decades. I shouldn't have read them, but a mention of my father's name caught my eye, and there it was. in faded ink on yellowed paper, the truth about my father's parentage. He wasn't my grandfather James's son at all. He was the result of an affair Grandma Margaret had in the early 1960s with a business associate of my grandfather's. A secret my grandfather agreed to keep, raising my father as his own to avoid scandal. The pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. My father's darker complexion and height that matched neither of his siblings. The tension that always surrounded him and Grandma Margaret. And May, with my mother's Mexican features combined with the unmistakable eyes of my biological grandfather, a man whose photo I found later through some internet searching. I am the living reminder of Grandma Margaret's greatest shame, the physical embodiment of her moral failing. I never told anyone what I discovered. Not my father, who has lived his entire life not knowing the truth. Not Aunt Diane, who would be devastated to learn her brother is only her half-brother. And certainly not Grandma Margaret, who has spent decades burying this secret so deeply that the only way she can cope is by burying me along with a Dot. As we gather around the dining table for cake, I watch my grandmother's face in the glow of 82 candles. Behind her perfect smile and carefully applied makeup, I see something I've never recognized before: fear. Fear when she looks at me, when she sees those eyes that don't belong to the Wilson family tree, and in that moment, something shifts inside me. The hurt child seeking approval transforms into a woman who understands that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones hurting the most themselves. That night, as I drive back to my apartment, I make a decision that will change everything, not just for me, but for the grandmother who has never been able to love me. I will find a way to reach her, not as the granddaughter she can't bear to see, but as someone else entirely. Someone who might finally help her face the path she's been running from. For over 50 years, the first letter took me 3 days to write. I'd start, crumple the paper, and start again, searching for the perfect words to reach someone who had spent a lifetime building walls. Finally, on a rainy April morning, I wrote, "Dear Margaret, you don't know me, but I feel like I know you. My name is Elena, and I'm a friend of your neighbor Susan." During one of our conversations, she mentioned what a remarkable woman you are, raising 3 children, maintaining your dignity through life's challenges, and being the cornerstone of your family. I recently lost my mother, and Susan thought perhaps we might become pen pals. At 65, I find myself reflecting on life's choices and the paths not taken. Perhaps you might share some of your wisdom? If this seems strange, please feel free to ignore this letter. But if you're willing, I'd be honored to correspond with someone who's navigated life's complexities with such grace. Warmly, Elena. I created a P.O. box in a town 30 minutes away. The handwriting I used was deliberately different from my own, more flowing, more mature. I even matters that aren't her concern. I'm sorry about your mother. Loss reshapes us in ways we never anticipate. As for wisdom, I'm not certain I possess much worth sharing. Life has taught me that appearances matter, family loyalty is paramount, and some mistakes can never be undone. Only lived with. If you wish to continue this correspondence, I wouldn't object. Regards, Margaret Wilson. Her response was formal, guarded, exactly what I expected. But it was a response. Over the next few months, Elena wrote about fictional travels, books she'd read, and gradually deeper topics: regrets, forgiveness, the weight of secrets. With each letter, Grandma Margaret's replies grew longer, more personal. By summer, something extraordinary happened. At a family barbecue, Grandma Margaret actually really looked at me for the first time in years. "Emma," she said, approaching me as I arranged desserts on the patio table, "those cupcakes look lovely. Did you make them?" I nearly dropped the platter. "Yes, I did. They're lemon with blueberry frosting." "My favorite combination," she said with a small smile before walking away. Later, I overheard her telling Aunt Diane about her remarkable pen pal Elena, who was teaching her to see things differently. In my next letter as Elena, I wrote about the importance of healing family rifts before it's too late. I shared a fictional story about reconciling with an estranged niece and the peace it brought. Grandma Margaret's response left me breathless. "Dear Elena, your letter arrived at a poignant time. Yesterday, I spent time with my granddaughter Emma. I've been unfair to her for reasons inflicted over years. Is it selfish to seek forgiveness when the other person doesn't even know the full truth of what needs forgiving? Your friend, Margaret." I read her letter through tears, finally understanding the full depth of her struggle. The woman who had seemed So cold and unreachable was actually drowning in regret. As Elena, I encouraged her to take small steps toward reconciliation. As Emma, I began to notice subtle changes, a birthday card with a heartfelt message, questions about my work, an invitation to Sunday dinner. Just the two of us. The dual relationship was exhausting but exhilarating. Through Elena's letters, I learned who my grandmother truly was, her fears, her regrets, her capacity for love. And slowly, through Emma's presence, she began to learn who I was. 6 months into our correspondence, Grandma Margaret wrote something that changed everything. Dear Elena, the doctor found something concerning during my checkup. Tests are scheduled, but at my age, one must be practical about these matters. There's something I need to tell my granddaughter before it's too late. The truth I've hidden for over 50 years. Your friendship has given me the courage to finally face this. If you were here, I'd ask for your hand to hold as I take this step. With gratitude, Margaret. I sat at my kitchen table, the letter trembling in my hands, realizing the moment of truth was approaching faster than I'd ever anticipated. The diagnosis came quickly. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. The family gathered at Grandma Margaret's house, shell-shocked and tearful. For once, I wasn't hovering on the periphery. I was right beside her, helping organize medical information and fielding calls from relatives. Emma has been my rock, Grandma Margaret told everyone, her hand reaching for mine with a strength that belied her condition. The others exchanged surprised glances, but no one questioned the sudden shift in our relationship. Meanwhile, Elena's letters became Grandma Margaret's lifeline. She wrote to her pen pal almost daily, now raw, honest. Letters about her fears, regrets, and the crushing weight of time running out. Dear Elena, the hardest part isn't the pain or even facing mortality. It's knowing how much time I've wasted on pride and shame. Especially with Emma. I look at her now, this beautiful, compassionate young woman, and wonder how I could have been. So blind, she has her mother's kindness and something else. A resilience I wish I possessed. I've decided to tell her everything. About her father, about my affair, about why I kept her at a distance all these years. I'm terrified she'd hate me, but she deserves the truth. Would you pray for me, Elena? That I find the right words and that somehow she might dare and subject both stranger and granddaughter. The weight of deception grew heavier as her condition deteriorated. One evening, as I adjusted her pillows, Grandma Margaret caught my wrist. Emma, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you years ago. I sat beside her, heart pounding. What is it, Grandma? She told me everything about the affair with my biological grandfather, a charismatic businessman named Carlos Vega. About my grandfather James's agreement to raise my father as his own. About her Catholic guilt and shame that intensified when my father married my mother, another reminder of her past. And finally, about how looking into... No, Emma, I hated myself. You were just the mirror I couldn't face. Her fingers tightened around mine. Can you ever forgive an old woman who was too weak to separate her shame from her love? In that moment, I knew I had to tell her the truth too. The dual deception couldn't continue, not with her time so limited, not with this new honesty between us. Grandma, there's something I need to tell you too, I began, my voice shaking. About Elena... Her eyes widened as I explained everything, finding the letters in Aunt Diane's attic, creating Elena to bridge the gap between us. Writing all those letters myself. For a terrible moment she said nothing, her face unreadable. Then, to my astonishment, she began to laugh, a weak but genuine laugh that turned into a coughing fit I had to help her through. Oh, Emma, she finally managed, wiping her eyes. You truly are extraordinary. All this time I've been pouring my heart out to you. Are you angry? I asked hesitantly. She shook her head slowly. How could I be? You found a way to reach me when I made it impossible for you to do so as yourself. The wisdom I thought came from Elena... It was yours all along. She asked me to retrieve a small wooden box from her bedside drawer. Inside were all of Elena's letters, carefully preserved. Read me your favorite, she requested, settling back against her pillows. I want to hear these words in your voice, your real voice. I selected the letter about forgiveness that had marked a turning point in our correspondence and began to read. As my words filled the hospital room, Grandma Margaret closed her eyes, a peaceful smile on her face. You know what this means, don't you? She said when I finished. What? It means I've already told you everything I was afraid to say, and you as Elena already forgave me. Her eyes, so like mine, held a mixture of wonder and sorrow. We've wasted so much time, yet somehow you found a way to give us these months together. That night, as I drove home from the hospital, I felt both heartbroken and strangely free. Just from different directions, the next morning, I began a new letter not as Elena, but as Emma. A real letter from a granddaughter to her grandmother, filled with all the love, forgiveness, and truth we had both been seeking. Grandma Margaret lived exactly 3 months and 12 days after our mutual confession. They were the richest days of our relationship, filled with stories, laughter, and a tenderness neither of us had known was possible. I moved temporarily into her guest room, spending evenings reading to her from classic novels or simply holding her hand as we watched old movies. Sometimes, she'd ask me to read our letters, both Elena's and her responses, like revisiting a beloved story whose ending we were still writing together. You know what I regret most? She asked me one evening as autumn painted the trees outside. Her window, not the open it later, she whispered. That night, she slipped away peacefully in her sleep, my hand in hers. The pouch contained her grandmother's sapphire ring and a note for Emma, who taught me that sometimes love must be written before it can be spoken. At the funeral, I delivered the eulogy, sharing not the story of Elena, but of a woman who found the courage to face her past and open her heart before it was too late. Afterward, my father approached me, curious about the dramatic change in his mother's relationship with me during her final months. What happened between you two? He asked. I thought of the truth still hidden in those letters, the secret of his birth that Grandma Margaret had ultimately decided not to reveal to him. We found a way to really see each other, I said simply. Sometimes that's all it takes. Some secrets I've learned are meant to be revealed. Others are meant to be carried forward with compassion. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference.